All right, welcome to video 8 of the Lead Guitar Quick Start series. In this lesson, we're going to learn about legato technique. Now, legato technique is made up of two smaller techniques, hammer-ons and pull-offs. The cool thing about legato technique is it gives your picking hand a break and it creates a really smooth, cool new sound that you can use for your leads. We're going to look at hammer-ons first, and then we're going to look at pull-offs. Once we get both of those down, we're going to put them together for full-blown legato technique, and then we're going to apply that to some of the skills you've learned already in the Lead Guitar Quick Start series. To get started, we need to get you to learn how to perform a hammer-on. So to do that, we're going to use our G minor pentatonic scale that we've been working on. Put your first finger on the 3rd fret of the D string, and that's going to be the first note that you pick. Now the idea is to come down to the next note, the next highest note on that string with your 3rd finger after you pick that note. But you're not going to pick it, you're just going to come hammer down on it, right? Just like a hammer to make it sound, right? You don't want to do it too hard, otherwise the string will go sharp, that note will go sharp. Listen. So here it's a little bit too sharp. And you don't want to do it too soft, otherwise the string won't ring out. You want to make sure that you do it hard enough for the string to ring out. The idea is to make the picked note and the hammered on note about the same volume. So just work on that pick, hammer on, pick, hammer on. Make sure to come right behind the fret with your hammer on too. So practice that for a while until you get comfortable with the idea of doing a hammer-on. And that's the first half of your legato technique. The second half of legato technique is pull-offs. So get your index finger back here on the 3rd fret of the D string again, but this time you're going to put your 3rd finger on the 5th fret at the same time. You're going to pick now, that note on the 5th fret is going to ring out, and what you're going to do is pull off of that note on the 5th fret. And it's just like I'm plucking the string with my 3rd finger, right? So if I pick it and then pull off, you're going to kind of down and out motion. So pick, pull off, pick, pull off. So get used to that. You don't want to do it too hard or it'll kind of go out of tune again, right? You don't want to do it too soft either, otherwise the note that you're holding down with your index finger back here won't ring out. So kind of like that. You want to make sure to do it just in a good balance to where the note that you pick and the note that you pull off to are about the same volume. Just do that over and over again. Pick, pull off, pick, pull off. Now if you need a couple of weeks or even a couple of months to get your hammer-ons and pull-offs sounding good, that's totally fine. This is a technique that's going to take a while to develop. Now we're going to combine hammer-ons and pull-offs to full legato technique. So let's go back to those same 2 frets that we were just playing. Get your first finger on the 3rd fret of the D string. Pick that note. Hammer on to the 5th fret with your 3rd finger. And right after you hammer on, you're going to want to pull off. So pick, hammer on, pull off. Pick, hammer on, pull off. And then once you get that going, pick, hammer on, pull off, hammer on, pull off. You can just keep it going. You only have to pick the first initial note. So that's kind of the heart and soul of legato technique. You pick once and then you can just do hammer-ons and pull-offs. It's a lot easier on your picking hand and it's a bit smoother sounding too. Now we're going to apply this legato technique to our minor pentatonic scale. And if you're just jumping in on this video, you should go back to the video in the Lead Guitar Quick Start series where we learn this minor pentatonic scale shape. The basic idea for using legato technique throughout a scale is to use hammer-ons whenever you can when you're ascending up the scale, and pull-offs wherever you can when you're descending throughout the scale. Let me show you what I mean. So if you were to normally pick through this entire minor pentatonic guitar scale, it would sound like that. When you're ascending, let's work on this ascending. Pick the first note of each string, and then hammer on to the 2nd note. So I'm picking that first note, then hammering on to the 6th fret with my pinky. And those are the 2 notes on that string. Now go over to the next string, pick the first note on the 3rd fret, index fingers there, hammer on, next note. In this case, it's your third finger on the 5th fret. Next string over, pick, hammer on. Next string over, pick, hammer on. Same thing on the next string, pick the lowest note, hammer on to the highest note. Then the last string, same exact thing. So here's how that would sound beginning to end without stopping. Listen to how much smoother it sounds than picking each note. Now this may be a little bit more difficult for you because it's quite a workout for your pinky, but work through it, work on developing that pinky and strengthening it up too. Now let's work on descending through this scale. So get your first finger in place back here on the 3rd fret and your pinky in place here on the 6th fret. What you're going to do is pick the first note, pull off to that lower note where your index finger is already there waiting, right? So pick, pull off. And there are a couple different schools of thought here as far as technique for this. You can do it like we just did with your index finger planted back here. Or you can pick and kind of come down on that 3rd fret with your index finger too. So either way is fine. Just kind of experiment with both of those and see which one works better for you. But pick, pull off, go to the next string, exact same thing, pick, pull off, next string, pick, pull off, pick, pull off, pick, pull off, pick, pull off. And don't forget about all the muting tips that I gave you with your picking hand and your fretting hand. Those are going to come in real handy here. So work on that. Work on ascending through the scale and descending as well. And you don't have to keep the scale going all in one direction, up and down. You can mix the notes up too. The idea here is to give you a new tool to make your playing sound smoother. So go through the 3 scales we've learned, the minor pentatonic scale, the major scale, and the major pentatonic scale, and apply legato technique to those. The major scale is going to be a little bit harder than the major pentatonic scale and the minor pentatonic scale because you have more notes, number 1. And number 2, some of the strings have 2 notes, some of the strings have 3 notes. So let me just go through that for you real quick. The first string, the low E string, pick, hammer on. Next string over, you have 3 notes on. So you're going to pick the first note, then hammer on, hammer on. Same thing on the next string, pick, hammer on, hammer on. Next string over, same thing. Pick, hammer on, hammer on. Next string over only has 2 notes, so pick, hammer on. And the next string over has 3 notes again. And on the way down for that one, you have pick, pull off, pull off. Pick, pull off, pick, pull off, pull off. Pick, pull off, pull off. Pick, pull off, pull off. Pick, pull off. So that whole scale together. So pull up a jam track, doesn't matter which one, any of the ones we've covered so far, and try going through each of these scales using legato technique, the major pentatonic scale, major scale, and minor pentatonic scale. I put together a couple licks for you that are going to help you learn how to apply this technique even further. This first lick uses the minor pentatonic scale, and we start off on the root note right here on the 3rd fret of the high E string with your first finger. Play that note with a downstroke. Then you're going to go over to the B string with your pinky on the 6th fret with an upstroke, then pull off to the 3rd fret with your first finger, then hammer back on to the 6th fret with your pinky. So far you have, then pull off again to your first finger on the 3rd fret. So. From there, go over to the G string, 5th fret with your 3rd finger, and play that with a downstroke. Then pull off to the 3rd fret with your index finger. And end the lick on the root note, this G right here, on the 5th fret of the D string. The This next lick is a major pentatonic scale lick, and it's going to start off on the 4th fret of the G string with your 3rd finger. Play that note, the downstroke, and pull off to the 2nd fret. Go over to the D string with your pinky on the 5th fret. Play that note with an upstroke. Pull off to the 2nd fret with your index finger. So far you have then hammer on, back to the 5th fret with your pinky. Then go back over to the 2nd fret of the G string with your 1st finger, the downstroke. 4th fret with your 3rd finger on that G string. Bend up a half step, let it down. So. From there, after the bend, play the 2nd fret of the G string, and you're going to end on the root note of the 5th fret on the 4th string right there with your pinky. So slowly. This last legato lick uses the major scale. So what we're going to do is start here on the 5th fret of the G string. Play that note, pull off to the 4th fret with your 3rd finger, pull off to the 2nd fret with your index finger. So pick, pull off, pull off. From there, you're going to go over to the D string, the 5th fret of the D string with your pinky. Pick that note with an upstroke, and then go back over to the G string with your 1st finger. Pick that note with a downstroke, hammer onto the 4th fret with your 3rd finger, hammer onto the 5th fret with your pinky. So here's the whole thing from the beginning. And to finish this lick, we have to learn a little new technique. So you're going to grab the 3rd fret of the B string with your middle finger. And from there, you're going to roll or collapse that middle finger over to the 3rd fret of the high E string. So you're going to have to learn how to roll that middle finger over to get both of those notes. You're going to want to let up on the pressure on that B string so it doesn't ring out. So you have this total. So once you can play all these licks, just pull up the jam tracks and start experimenting around for yourself using the legato technique with these skills, making up your own stuff. I hope this lesson is giving you a new tool that you can use to further your self-expression on the guitar. In the next lesson, I'm going to give you some tips for developing solos. So we're going to start putting everything that we've worked on so far together. And after that, we'll learn your first guitar solo. If you have any questions about legato technique, leave them here and I'll get back to you. You can also email me, Nate@guitarsystem.com. See ya.